Hey everyone, Grandmaster Ben Finegold with video number 2 in my series of many videos in a row. Not too many crazy comments yesterday. I think I had to delete 2 of them, so that's pretty good. And actually, we got some donations and a couple of new members, so so far so good. Let's see. So this was the ALOHA tournament, and that happened 2 weeks ago. And this is round 2 against Shanmukha Meruga, who's a local master like the last guy. Although I think Shanmukha is about 17 or 18 years old, is my guess. I would be pretty surprised if he was much different than that. He's one of the talented players in the area. I don't think we've played a slow game, but we've played a lot of blitz chess at tournaments, I think. So anyway, so this is my first rated game against him. And again, he's rated about 2200. I was white. After the game, he said the reason he played e5 here, which he did, is he knows that I play e5, and he wanted to see what I did against it. For example, well, basically a lot of videos I've made. I guess most famously the game I beat Majara, but I beat a lot of other players, Gazzoli and Conrad Holt. And I guess I don't win in real life, just online. But anyway, unfortunately for him, or maybe it didn't matter, he didn't know how I played the opening. He just knew this much. For some reason, he hadn't studied my games. He just knew that I played e5. And so in this position, I always play bishop e7. He played the more common move, which I don't really know either side of. I just have a general idea of how to play. And he didn't know that I didn't play g6 here. I think most people play sort of a King's Indian type position with e5 and c5. I actually play a lot differently, because when I play bishop e7, I delay castling by moving my knight to g6. So, I mean, what he did really has nothing to do with what I play. Okay, so I developed my pieces in castle, and so did he. Okay. And, I mean, this is a normal King's Indian position, except that he's played e5 and c5. If he had only played e5 or he had only played c5, it's just normal. Having played both means that the center is totally blocked, and both sides want to play on the wings. Black wants to play either b5 or f5 at some point, and white wants to play b4 or f4. And of those 4 moves, I guess we played 2 of them. Although he tried to play another one, so. Okay, well, it's his turn. And instead of developing his pieces, he played knight h5 with the idea of playing either knight f4 or f5. Now, my experience in these kinds of positions stems from playing the bayonet variation, where I'm white in a King's Indian and I'm playing the move b4. So actually, if black's pawn was on c7 and my pawn was on b4 and his knight was on e7, then I know this position. And in those positions, black's also trying to play knight f4 and f5. And one thing that Kramnik likes to do against that is to play the move rook e1, which is what I played here. And the idea is if he plays knight f4, then I'll play bishop f1, saving my bishop. My rook is well placed. I can kick his knight out later, and so forth. So instead of playing knight f4, he played f5. And if you watch my videos or you're my private student, always play e takes f5. And it's especially good here because if he takes with the g-pawn, then his knight on h5 isn't defended, and I have sort of a simple discovered attack on his knight, and I take a pawn. Sort of a normal tactic that you see a lot in these kinds of positions. Which means he has to take with a piece. He took with a bishop. And, well, because I played rook e1 and because his f5 pawn is gone, I have good control of the e4 square. And actually, I thought a long time here, because my original intention was to play knight g5 with a discovered attack on his knight. And then after knight f4, I could take and play knight e6 and get this position. And this position confused me because we both have these big trumps. I have a passed e-pawn, I have the d5 square for my knight or my queen or my bishop. But he has trumps also. He can play bishop e5, and his knight can go to c6 and or d4. And maybe he'll play f3 later and checkmate me. So it's not so simple, this position. Black has play also. So after thinking a long time, I decided not to play so aggressively and so forcefully, and I just made his knight on h5 less important. I played the move g3, so now his knight can't go to f4, and if it was my turn, I would play knight g5, which is the variation I just showed you, except he can't play knight f4 now. So he played knight f6, since his knight isn't really doing anything on h5, and I played knight h4, because I want to control the e4 square, so I want his bishop to go away, and then I can put lots of pieces controlling e4 and occupy and control it. And it's actually not so easy to move the bishop anywhere. I don't really know what to suggest. Bishop d7, I mean, blocks his queen and bishop. Bishop c8 seems strange. So I played bishop to h3, and I followed my rule, always play bishop f1. And he made a bad move here. I was expecting him to defend his bishop with his queen, either queen c8 or queen d7. He could retreat his bishop also, although probably shouldn't have played bishop h3 then. So he traded bishops, which is bad, because he's giving up the white squares. And in fact, black's already in trouble here, and I actually have a very strange strategical threat, which he didn't notice. Obviously, if I had my druthers, like if I was playing Bughouse, then I would play knight e6 here. Although I guess in Bughouse there might even be better moves. But I mean, I'm trying to get a knight to e6. And the King's Indian, in a lot of bayonet attacks, which I play b4, this happens sometimes. And whenever you play knight e6, they capture it with their bishop, but his bishop doesn't exist. So if I play knight e6, I'm just winning. And you might say, well, how are you going to play knight e6? Well, I'm going to go from g5, obviously. And so if one of my knights can go to e4, f3, then I'm on the road to e6. So perhaps in this position, black should be aware of that and maybe put one of his knights on c7. He could do it either way. And then it's not so dangerous. Problem with black's position is he doesn't have a lot of active play because his f-pawn's gone, so he can't play f4 and f3, and this typical kingside attack with g5 and so forth. It's not really scary. And his dark-squared bishop, I mean, when you play, when you put your pawns on these squares, that's what happens. Your dark-squared bishop's not very good. Okay, so he played a6 because, as I said earlier in the video, black often wants to play b5. And he's almost losing now strategically because I continue with my plan. I play knight f3 to play knight g5, knight e6. And unfortunately, one of the ideas I suggested, knight a6 to c7 to defend e6, is no longer available. It's pretty pathetic to play knight e8 to c7 because you're giving away, I mean, the e4 square also. I can't really suggest that. Okay, so he stopped knight g5, played h6. And I was pretty proud of this idea because I saw it earlier. Now that he's played h6 and he's prevented knight g5, he's weakened the g6 pawn. And when you move your pawns that are adjacent to your pawn, then it's hard to defend. So I go back to h4. And of course, he would like to play h6 to h7, but you can't move backwards in chess no matter how many times my 1 o'clock class tries to. Well, if you play g5, I have the f5 and g6 squares for my knight, probably f5, following my knight f5 rule. He defended his pawn. I attacked it again, and he defended it again. He can defend his pawn. He's not going to lose any material, but he basically can't move now. If black had to make a lot of moves in a row, I don't really have a plan. I have a very simple plan, which I executed. I play bishop d2, rook ae1 and f4, and I do this with my hands. Somehow that wins. And you're just in a lot of trouble. You don't have anything to do. So I played f4 right away because I don't have to play bishop d2, rook e1 yet. And I wanted to prevent his counterplay with b5. If I play bishop d2, I think he just plays b5. Now if he plays b5, I have more than one good move. I could probably sacrifice a piece and take on b5 since g6 is hanging. It's probably good. I wouldn't do that. I could take on e5, and then I would get a pass pawn, or I could play f5. I mean, every move is good. So he played the obvious knight d7, which completes the development of his minor pieces and defends the e5 pawn. But unfortunately, it blocks his queen from b5, so I'm not worried about b5 anymore. So now bishop d2, rook e1, etc. And I don't really see anything black can do. He can just sit there and have his queen, which is either going to be on e8 or f7. It's going to be opposite my rooks, and you can't move your queen off of those squares because you have to defend g6. And as I've said many times before, with so many arrows, you're in a lot of trouble. Okay, he made a mistake. He took on f4, which opens the line to his queen, so rook e1. He can't block with the knight, because if he plays, for example, knight e5, I take with the pawn, and your knight's pinned. So he has to play queen f7. And I take back. Well, d6 is attacked, and you can't really protect it. And if I don't want to take on d6 because I'm lazy, I could play rook e6. Yeah, so this game's just beyond repair. Also, some positions I could even play rook e7 because I have knight takes g6 tricks, but that seems unnecessary. Okay, so he played knight g4, and the trick is his knight's attacking the e3 square, and the e3 square is very well defended, but if I'm greedy, then he does this, and his knight's coming to e3, irrespective of whether I take the rook or play king g2, and he's going to fork my king and rook, depending on where my king goes, and I lose. So I can't be greedy and take the d6 pawn because he actually has a threat. I'm defending e3 pretty well, and he can't play queen takes f1 now, so I just kicked his knight out with h3. The knight doesn't have anywhere to go. I can't suggest a square for it. So he didn't move it. Obviously, if he goes to these squares, I just take it. If he goes back, then these were his last two moves, so I just take on d6. And if he goes to e5, I just take it, and I'm attacking his queen. So he can't really move his knight anywhere, so he checked me. I got a check. And there's nothing to do here, you're just losing. I'm threatening your knight and you can't move it anywhere. So he played knight f6, and obviously I can take on d6 and win. I'm up a pawn with a better position. I can play rook e6 and win. But I played the strongest move, which forced immediate resignation. So you can pause your video at the end of the game and see if you can find the move that, according to my engine, after thinking for about a minute, says plus 11. Plus 11 is pretty good when the material's equal. So that means you have a really big advantage. So pause your video and try to find the best move for white. Okay, it's sort of a nice tactic. Again, a lot of moves win. You may have played bishop takes d6, rook e6. Rook e7 probably wins, but this move is by far the best. It's knight takes g6. And when his bishop was on g7, which it was a couple moves ago, I couldn't do this. But now that his bishop is on d4, and he blocked it, he can't go back to g7, this works like a charm. Obviously, if it's my move, I can take the rook with double check, or I can play knight e5 discovered check. Or I could play rook e7, or I could play bishop takes d6. So not taking the knight seems not good. And if you take the knight, then I play rook e7 check. Again, it's important that his bishop's not on g7, it's on d4, and he can't go back. And if you play rook f7, I just take it because your queen is pinned. And after rook check, you lose your queen. I'm going to play queen takes g6 next move. So after knight takes g6, without thinking very long, Shanmukha resigned, which is the best move. And that was a much cleaner game than my first game. It was much quicker. I think the game lasted about an hour. He's a very fast player, and I didn't play too slowly either. I played so slowly my first game, I was like, that's enough of that. So that was a relatively easy and fun game, and you can see all my pieces are in good squares. So, well, it worked out for me. Okay, my next video, which I'll make tomorrow, I'm going to show my third and fourth round games because the fourth round game was very short. It doesn't deserve its own video. Thanks for donating. Please, again, go to atlchessclub.com/donate. The more you pay, the more you learn. You can also go to our membership page and join our club. You can go to our tournaments page. I think it's called Events. And we have all of our tournaments and classes listed. Everything's in the notes here. And if you go to atlchessclub.com and just look around, you'll see a lot of stuff. I think our webmaster, Eric Rosen, who's International Master, who just got back from, I think, 5 weeks in Europe, he's putting some more stuff on the website. And, well, like and subscribe here on YouTube and follow me on Facebook and Twitter. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everyone.